coast a bit. Tell us about the Andale Lock Harbor pipe.
That project, in the early 90s, it was not clear exactly which direction South Carolina was going to go in by way of development, and Florida had a certain model, which was essentially dredging highland, creating canals that created much more waterfront property, and the reason was waterfront property sold for more than non-waterfront. And everybody knows that if you go to Florida today, you see these bizarre man-made hydrologic systems that have house all along dead-end canals, which have all sorts of problems, but they also, in a way, are almost like a cultural phenomenon and a cultural break with what South Carolina's natural sort of wandering, amorphous coastline looks like. Well, in around 93, I guess, developers bought the Andale property, which is right next to Seabrook, between Seabrook and Kiowa. It was a tomato field, and they proposed to put a 60-acre, what they call locked harbor marina, in that tomato field, which would be connected by a dredged canal, dredged across another creek, Haulover Creek, to Bohicket Creek. And there would be 400 yachts in this, a la Florida, in this hole in the middle of a tomato field, which had extensive waterfront opportunities, condos, etc. And we opposed that. DHEC, I hate to say characteristically, but after yesterday's approval of the coal plant, characteristically did approve the permit. OCRM approved the permit. We appealed it. Jimmy Chandler represented us from South Carolina Environmental Law Project, and we spent literally years, 5 years, fighting that project, which would have created the largest marina at the time in the state on Bohicket Creek, right upstream from Rockville, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, and threatened by erosion already. And we brought experts in, actually, who remodeled the water circulation. They had their own experts who really they paid to say what they wanted them to say. Among those things they said was that boat wakes actually don't have any effect on marsh. Nancy Benson got in a little John boat and sat by the edge of the marsh during the Governor's Billfish tournament and took video photographs of these sports fishing boats literally tearing the marsh to pieces. I mean, to the point that one of them drove up on the marsh and they jetted the boat out. They took a hose and they jetted all the mud out from under the boat and floated off. And literally today, if you go to Cherry Point, there probably is about 50 acres of marsh that has vanished because of that. So it was serious stuff. And it took us 5 years to win in court. And at the same time, we went to Charleston County. And Charleston County, little known to anyone, had on the books what was called a marina matrix developed in the 80s by Dan Bismore. And we were a part of that before the Conservation League. It basically said, you can't have a marina on an outstanding resource water. And so the county, you know, in spite of that, were wondering whether they should approve it or not. We brought Nancy's videos of these waves crashing into the marsh and huge scarps of marsh falling off into the water like avalanches. And the county voted unanimously against it, so the county beat it, we overturned the permit, and we ended up victorious. But it was 5 years.
So, and today, if we had not done that, today you would have Florida, Kiowa, like Harbor Town kind of monster development there with hundreds and hundreds of docks and boats going out Bohicket Creek. And today, if you go out in that area, the creek is still pristine.
Mm-hmm.
It's still rural.
A gateway to the Ace Basin there, isn't it?
Right, and it's sort of representative of actions that the League took that were pivotal at a point, and that, for example, in the Francis Marion and on this creek, where if we had gone one way, the rest of the coast likely could have gone that way. in both that kind of development and that kind of forestry practice. But because we took that turn and said, no, this coast deserves better than this. We're going to do better than that. And that has been the standard that has been maintained. And as a result, I think the South Carolina coast is better in every way 20 years later because of examples like this and several others.